Hello everybody, welcome back. For those of you who just looked at the number 1 as in the first episode, this is actually the second video of the series. The previous video was a introduction to this game and sort of an overview of what this game is about and what I felt about it. But yeah, this is going to be the first official video for my Let's Play series where I actually start creating a new warband, as you can see right here. Just a warning, I'm not editing out the loading screens because they're so ridiculously long. I'm actually going to break each episode, I'm actually going to break it up into different sections where at the beginning of each new episode, I'm hoping to look at the post-game stats of the previous match or the previous battle and see, whether or not I got any wounds on my guys or if I have any upgrades or whatnot, and then talk about all the different things and changes and make, the screen where you manage your warband. And then I will cut that as a separate video out and then show the battle in between those as a separate video. So I'm guessing all the odd numbered episodes will be about setup analysis and about itemization and skills and stuff like that, and the build itself. And the even numbered episodes will just be purely about combat, where I will be showing you footage of me actually in a fight with my warband. So like I've said before, I'm going to start off with the Skaven, as this is the warband that I spent the most time experimenting with. I'm gonna just let you listen to this. It's amazing voice acting, in my opinion.
We take fetch all warpstone. Smart wise Skaven may take much power rack with warpstone. Keep steel from stupid man things and take them to under empire. Many man things in Mordheim nest. Many other things too. All want take warpstone. And die! Sister things from river hide warpstone under fort nest. Cult things take warpstone to demon hole. Soldier things take warpstone away to barren things. All must die! Die! Skaven, with much warpstone rise fast quitting clan. Become big great chief. Much slaves, much breeders, much power. Become warlord of whole borough.
Just kidding.
Best quick train to rank power is swear serve great murder lord Snicket. Much strong. Most high underling of clans, revered, feared night lord. Skaven blight, they know of Murder Lord Snicket, great mighty Snicket, best of all assassin lords. Maybe becomes Deathmaster someday. He's smart to serve Snicket and share his glory. Much helping Snicket, no, crush all rivals. Why smart Skaven work with Filch, yes? Not never hear learn about Filch Sharptail? Filch Sharptail, greatest killer in all Clanation. Filch strangled Wilhelm the Baron thing and make it look like hungry troll ate him. Filch drowned Warlord Kripnik after his ship sink fighting dragon thing. Pox keep her bile breath choke on old plague when Filch drops big rock on his tail. No, never hear learn about Filch. Best assassin is one nobody knows. Be proud honor to work for Filch. Filch will let you find much wordstone for him. Great, 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 great,
So, Let's begin first by explaining to you a bit about sort of my approach to gaming, as well as what I hope to accomplish with this channel. I mean, sure, it's for entertainment purposes, but I think, especially since I'm making this, I personally enjoy watching Let's Plays of games that have a deeper level of analysis, and I almost always get the sense that when I see a Let's Play, I almost always get the sense that I want more analysis. I want higher level of strategy. I want, like, to really just power game and watch the Let's Player power game. And if you don't know what power gaming is, it's basically like you're min-maxing everything. You're using everything from economics to game theory to really maximize the efficiency of how you play and the power of how you play. So you're really going for the win here. But it's not really about necessarily abusing any sort of game mechanic weaknesses. It's more so about really trying to play the game at its limits, at its highest performance. And I really want to be able to do that with this game, because I feel like a lot of people out there, especially the negative reviewers, they don't really understand the high level of depth in this game, just how much strategy actually can be in this game. And after I've played this for about a week and a half, since that's how long that I've had this game, I realized just how much depth this game has, and I realized just how much time it really deserves and how much replay value it has. Speaking of which, every single time that you play a campaign through, whether or not you're successful, you earn sort of credit or points towards this thing right here called the veteran system, and it accumulates over time. It's kind of like if you've played games like League of Legends, it's kind of like, even though you start every game, like every match, at level 1 and you level up to the maximum of level 18, you have a summoner level, or like your character level, like who you are as a player level, and it's separate from what your champions are, or what, in this case, what your warband is. So your warband levels up, but as you play, it doesn't matter if it's the same warband, your player level also levels up, and the veteran system reflects that. Now if you're just getting this game brand new and you haven't played a single campaign, I would highly recommend actually starting out with the tutorials and then going on to the looking into the wikis. There is a really in-depth wiki on Gamepedia. I will include the link below this video when I post it. But anyway, it's pretty complex, and it's fairly it takes a fair bit of trial and error to learn just the mechanics of it, and then realizing that beyond just learning how to play, you have to, like, it's beyond just learning how to, like, physically move things around. Like, you have to really understand where you want to move things and how you want to do things and what's good, what's bad, etc. Because it's a pretty challenging game, because it actually is a military strategy game. It is a tactical combat game, and it, unlike a lot of games like XCOM, this one is basically just automatically on hardcore mode, like Iron Man mode. Like, you can't save and then reload. So, like, if you make a mistake, it's permanent. And that really adds to the challenge to this, but it also really punishes you as a new beginning player, because, like, if you fuck up, you're just gonna have to pretty much start over, because it's really hard to come back. I talked quite a bit about the reasons behind why it's difficult to come back when you fall behind in this game. And that's in the first video, so I won't go into too much detail about that. But I want to first of all show you this veteran system, because I've played a bunch and, you know, messed up a couple times already. I've actually accumulated 6 levels on the veteran system, and I believe this is quite interesting because, like, every time, like, it doesn't matter, because the game feels really punishing when you fail. They want to sort of have some sort of reward for just playing the game, and over time you do accumulate these points, and they can be spent on like very valuable skills that you can redistribute for every single new playthrough, and you'll eventually earn more and more points, and without even distributing any of these points, you passively get bonus perks. Like right now at level 6, my new warbands start with an additional 150 gold crowns. As you can see, I have 400 right now. So like vanilla, when this game just, you know, like is brand new and I haven't played any, I would have only 250 gold to start out with, which is like barely any. As you can see later on, I'll show you the recruitment costs alone will probably eat up most of that. But 400 is a little bit, it's still too low in my opinion to really do much, but it's a lot better. Yeah, so you earn these veteran skill points and levels through accomplishing these tasks, and you really actually don't need to focus on looking at this tab and analyzing, you know, what you need to do next, because really it's just, if you're playing the game, you'll accumulate these sort of naturally on your own, like, you know, enemies defeated, for example, or just playing the game will get you these filled out eventually, so you don't really have to worry about it. But you do want to come back to this tab and check out any new points that you can distribute on these veteran skills, which are extremely valuable, because if you look at all these skills, they each do something slightly beneficial that will initially have a very small impact on the game, and then as you progress it just gets bigger and bigger, and over the long term it really has a big influence on the game. For example, something like Commander, it just reduces your upkeep costs for your leaders and impressive warriors, and I'll explain what those are in a bit, but they'll just, like, it's only 4 gold pieces for level 1 of the skill after each mission, but if you think about it, over the long run, that is a lot of gold, because every single mission you do is 4 gold. If you do 10 missions, that's 40 gold that you're saving. 100 missions, that's 400 gold right there that you saved, and that's a lot. But there are obviously in this game better skill point perks than others, and from my experience, the number 1 skill that I actually always want to get first is Negotiator, because the game forces you to deliver X amount of word stones every 10 days or so, and if you fail to fulfill those requests within the time they give you, and if you fail four of them, you will lose the game. It's really beneficial if you want to, like, try to get an entire playthrough without losing the game, to get this perk first, because you will actually be able to get more days to fulfill your wordstone requests, and it's also beneficial to understand how this exactly works. So say before the 10 days is up, you have enough wordstones to turn in to fulfill the request. I've actually looked this up. You don't have to wait until the last day to deliver the wordstone request to actually maintain the full amount of time. Like, if you deliver your wordstones like immediately when the request shows up, you still have those 10 days. It's just that your delivery gets there first, and then you have 10 free days to do whatever you want that you still would have gotten if you had to use all those days to fulfill the request. So you just get those 10 days no matter what, and then after that, those 10 days are up, then you get the next request. So because of that mechanic, there's really no incentive whatsoever to wait to fulfill those requests. Like, you can just send those word stones in as soon as you get them, for going towards those requests, because once you fulfill them, you get gold as soon as they receive it, and once you have the gold, you can spend it on more useful things, and it's easier to just get the gold like earlier instead of waiting for it and saving up. So what Negotiator does and why it's, I think, the most number one, like the highest priority out of all of them, is that because those days that you get to fulfill each request are like permanent, like you won't lose them, and it starts with a fixed 10 days. By getting things like Negotiator, and there are other things that also helps it, and increasing the number of days, you are actually buying yourself a lot of extra time to get more word stones. And when you have time on your side, a lot of good things happen, because, for example, if one of your guys get hurt, it takes several days for them to heal up to back to normal, so that they can actually go back and fight again. And say if you weren't doing very well and you started getting your guys hurt and you don't have extra days and you just have your set 10 days, then you're wasting a lot of those time and days on healing your guys and stuff, and not actually going out and collecting word stones. So eventually you'll fall behind. So Negotiator, it just gives you a lot more time. And because in this game you can level up most skills by 2 levels, I'm getting the 2nd level because it actually gives you 3 additional days. So now I have, instead of the default to every 10 days, I have every 13 days, which is, like it's like a 30% increase. That's quite significant. Also, there are 2 costs in this game that are pretty much unavoidable and are quite expensive. The first is, like, the first most expensive thing that you'll note in the game is skill costs. Like, skills in this game cost somewhere between 100 gold to 300 gold by default. So reducing the amount of gold that you have to spend on those skills is massively beneficial, because if I get this to level 2 and I have a 10% reduction on a 300 gold skill, I'm getting a 30 gold discount. That is huge, okay? That is like an entire soldier that you could have an entire warrior that you could have hired. That is huge. So I get this as my 2nd priority, and I level up to level 2. Then I still have 2 unspent skill points, and really everything else is pretty much personal preference. I think Commander is a good pick at this point, but for my own personal preference, because I like to play very conservatively with my armies, and I pretty much never get them hurt. I almost never get them killed or put out of action. Healer isn't as beneficial as it would be if you are someone who tends to make a lot of mistakes and get your guys hurt. Also, for me, because I earned so much freaking word stones and they give me so much gold in the game, I'm not really worried about upkeep. What I'm more worried about is recruitment, because of how fast I level up my war bands. I almost have to constantly get more recruits, So this is also good. And finally, I would also make the argument that if you tend to lose guys in combat and they get hurt, this would still arguably be better than healer, because eventually you'll have to make the decision to replace your dude. Like, you know, if for example one of his legs gets chopped off or one of his arms gets chopped off and now he can't use a shield or something like that, it's pretty ridiculous to try to hang on to that one warrior when all you have to do is go and replace him with a different warrior. Now obviously it's not as good because you'll have to level him up from scratch again, but recruiting a whole new warrior costs a lot more than your healing costs usually. So getting this perk Renowned is really good compared to like having your treatment costs be a little bit lower. Like, because if you're doing well, you won't really need to use healer. Like, if you're doing well and you're winning a lot and you're not getting hurt, healer doesn't do anything for you at all because none of your guys are hurt, so you're not treating any wounds. Whereas if you're doing well, you're always going to be growing your faction. You're going to get new recruits to fill new slots that get opened up. So Renown's going to help you. If you're losing and doing horribly, you're going to have new slots opening up because your previous dudes are getting hurt and slaughtered left and right, and you need to replace them. So Renown is, for me, my personal preference. Obviously, it's a little less apparent that it's as necessary as the first two. Like, the first two are just like no-brainers. I would get these like no-brainers. But this is a little bit more personal preference. Like, Commander would not have been a bad choice at this point. And then if you'll notice, there's a lot of things that are contact and then whatever following the name or the word contact. These generally are just things that let you get a certain item more frequently for free. It's kind of a good thing to have if you're gonna focus towards what I would call a doctrine. So what I mean by that is, like, if what you're gonna be doing is having a ton of units just have guns, and you're focusing on guns, and you want like an entire army of gunners, then having something like contact gunsmith is good, because in the shop or in the marketplace where you get all these items, it's really not that frequent to see the same item get, you know, refreshed and in stock more than like maybe 2 or 3 times maximum per week. And week is like every, you know, like it's 7 days in this game, and 7 days is a really long time in this game, because considering you need to deliver word stones like every 10 days on by default, 7 days is huge, right? So these contact ones really speeds up how quickly you can get a certain item or a certain item type, because you'll have a, if you can see here, you'll have a 5% free chance at level 1 to receive a free item of that particular item type. So you're really accelerating what you're trying to get. Obviously certain items are better than others. Like, I don't think gunsmith is a viable one, because very few characters in this game actually use guns. There's pretty much only, from what I can tell at this point, humans can use guns. Like, my guy Skavens won't actually even be able to use guns. So things like helmets, for example, are really good, or sometimes you want great weaponsmiths for dual-handed weapons, because it's not like you're not just getting like a sword, but you can also get hammers that are dual wielding. You can get dual wielding blades. You can get two-handed weapons, where you can get like 2 weapons, 1 in each hand. Like, and so there's a lot more types. So that's probably even better choice than a lot of the other ones out there. And then there's obviously the money type things, where, you know, you can buy things for cheaper or sell things for higher money, or whatever. And that's basically all the veteran skills. I think I've covered most of them. So yeah, that's what I have, and I'm going back to their war camp. I noticed that these things are usually locked when they are either not a good idea to look at, or they're completely irrelevant, or you have some sort of limitation to blocking you, preventing you from clicking on them. At this point, it's because I don't have any dudes. I didn't hire anybody. I just have one guy, which is my leader. So I should go to warband management. This is where you hire a bunch of dudes and create your warband. So in the beginning, when you're just starting out, you don't actually have access to all the different types of units that are actually available per faction. There's quite a few. There are 3 classes of units that are available, and you have initially 1 slot for a leader class, 1 slot for hero, and 3 slots for henchman. So the way I would view it is to actually put it into chess terms. The leader is kind of like your king or your queen combined on the chess field. Like, usually the leader of a faction is generally the strongest unit, I would say. Like, they start off with probably better stats. They have a little bit more flexibility in terms of the items that they can use. And oh yeah, obviously they're also the most valuable unit, because if they go down in a fight, like, they will cause you to fall behind a lot more, because they're worth more points than your other pieces on the board, or, you know, in this case, your other warriors or soldiers. The leader in this game is knocked out in a fight. It's not the end of the world. Like, you can still come back and win the game or win the fight as long as you have heroes. But if you don't have a hero and you don't have a leader that are still up and able to fight, then that's automatically a lose condition. So you do want to be careful to keep these guys alive. Let's see. So that has to do with morale impact and morale. So like when you lose a dude, the morale impact is how much morale falls out of the pool of morale that you have for the entire warband for that fight. And usually you start out, you know, at a pretty high amount of morale when you start a fight. And once you start losing guys, and the morale impact number starts detracting. The morale impact for your leader is always going to be the biggest, so that's also why you want to keep him safe. But then there's also a morale number, which is also important, because if your other units start to fall in battle, and they start, you know, detracting from your total morale with the morale impact number, what morale remains is determined by the morale value of your current units that are still, like, up and fighting. And the higher the morale you can have on these guys, the more likely that your guys will still keep fighting, no matter, like, you know, and you can potentially lose more guys in a fight and still not necessarily get forced to surrender, because it's called routing. It means, I guess, your guys have too low of morale to keep fighting and they'll just run away. That is generally why having high morale also is really good. In any case, this dude is your leader, and my, I guess, second favorite unit in this game so far. Not necessarily my best or my favorite. My favorite unit for this faction would actually probably have to be this dude right here, the hero, the first hero that we can hire. There are 2 other heroes that you can hire. There's 3 total different types of heroes per faction. This is the first one that you can hire, It just so happens to be my favorite because of what it can do, and I will actually showcase what he really can do in fights later on, particularly based on how I like to use these guys. And I think you'll agree that if you use these guys correctly, they're dumb. They're so stupidly strong. It's pretty hard to it's hard to argue with how strong these guys are. So I'm gonna hire this. If you'll notice, when I click on hiring, the gold amount, it's actually gonna be lower than what you might see if you don't have the veteran. The veteran skills that I actually have available to me right now with the reduction in recruitment costs. So this is already helping me out. Let's see. I'm going to recruit warp guards for now instead of verminkin. I do feel like verminkin do have a place in a warband, especially when in a larger warband. But I think at the low level stage, you really want to avoid using these guys, because early on in the game, you only have 5 dudes. Pretty much all the time, you want all your dudes to be able to fight and not run around doing stuff or scouting, which is, I think, what this guy does the best. You kind of just have to use a combination of your heroes and henchmen to do any kind of scouting information gathering you do. So, because like if you have a designated scout, then you're only gonna have 4 fighters and you're gonna start losing all the fights. So I'm gonna get 3 of these right off the bat. Each of these units sort of come with their own innate like passive abilities or starting abilities. So it you can't really remove these abilities. I've tried. Like it's just something that they start with and it stays with them. Obviously they're pretty decent, and they kind of dictate a certain style of play with these characters right off the bat, and these abilities sort of fill an existing slot. So that's also why I try to remove them, because for some of them I couldn't figure out why this is there. Like, can I have a different one, please? You know, like, but this dude, your leader, starts off with a skill that's a passive, so it's always in play, called Defense Breach. So attacks bypass 10% of a target's dodge and parry chance. I believe this is probably one of the better ones out there, because there's so much of this game that involves trying to avoid damage, that if you have something like this to go through that and just say, screw you, I'm going to hit you anyway, it's really useful. And right off the bat, you have 10% bonus against both dodge and parry. So that's just a free skill right there. And I think this is one of the better skills to have, and you get it for free on your leader. I think this one is super hard to understand at first, until very recently when I really got the hang of how to use this character, and instead of being just confused and scratching my head about sort of what is this guy really meant to do, I figured out at least what I like to do with this type of dude, for me personally. Like, on the one hand, for this faction, the Night Runner is actually the best out of all your options to actually run ranged weapons on. I still think this guy is a melee, and there's 2 reasons. First of all, yes, you have to argue, or you have to agree with the fact that this faction have the ability to use those pistols and shurikens, and they're all, you know, they're ranged weapons. But just because you have those weapons choices does not necessarily mean you want to build your character towards them and assume that that's the best option. I looked at all the different weapon types and what they do, and I've messed around with them and tried them out. I do think that every single Skaven at this point, at least in my book, should have a shuriken in their inventory. Because you can have 2 item sets or weapon sets. You can have your primary weapon, and then you can equip a shuriken, if I can find one. Nope. No, none in the store, so I'm out for the moment. But for example, if you look in the hero who starts with one, you will have weeping blades that deal poison damage on hit, and then shurikens that you can throw. The reason why I feel like it sounds almost like a contradiction to say, like, okay, I don't think you should get ranged on Skavens at all. I don't think you should build them ranged, but have ranged weapons on them. And it sounds confusing at first until you realize what I do with the shurikens. I will probably show you once the fighting starts, which is probably going to be the next episode. But basically, a lot of times in a fight, when your character is low health, you're faced with a really difficult choice to either decide to continue fighting and risk losing your character and having your character be wounded and hurt and get some permanent injuries that really just screw them over, or potentially even die. You're forced to choose between that and running away. And running away with your character is kind of bad, because if they're melee and they use, close range weapons, they're not going to be able to fight and do any damage and contribute to the damage of the team. So there's your dilemma. Now, I believe that the shurikens, especially in this scenario, is like your best friend. As an answer to that problem, because say your hero here, Scurrywarts, is on low health and he's engaged to an enemy melee champion, you could actually just disengage and run away instead of staying and fighting at low health. But instead of like hiding him away secretly and making him be this useless dude that you just have to protect for the rest of the fight, he can still shoot shurikens or throw shurikens at the enemy. Now, there are a lot of penalties for using ranged when you're shooting at enemies who are already engaged in melee combat, etc., etc., and there's a lot of other things. So it doesn't make range very effective or very efficient, in my opinion. But that said, just having the ability to potentially do some extra damage when you're like 1 HP from dying, from like the edge of the fight, from away from the enemies just a bit so they can't reach you, but you're still throwing in some damage, it really like gives you that slight edge in an engagement. And you can do this with pretty much all your characters, because every single Skaven character has the innate ability to carry a shuriken on them and use them. So like even your warp guards, even like your henchmen dudes, they can also use shurikens and throw things. So like I wouldn't build them to actually specialize into doing that, obviously, because there are just so many better options right now. Especially since this faction is not built for that. This faction is built for assassins and killing something really quickly, and I'll get into that probably in later episodes when the characters are far more leveled up so that they actually have skills that I can show off. Because in the current stage, like right now, I'm just giving you some like introductory, like beginning character type stuff. So yeah, like shurikens, they're great. You can use them. If you want to build range units, I'd say Night Runners are your best bet. But I still personally don't prefer to do ranged, because I think... Oh yeah, and also another thing is, these two weapons, they have really like short-ish range. Like, I think they have somewhere between 15 to 20 range, like 15 to 20 meters, okay? That's around 4 movement points away. Anybody can charge at you from within 4 movement points away and hurt you if you're trying to do range, and as soon as you get engaged in melee combat, you're pretty screwed. So I don't think it's worth it, also because of the range. There are better range options out there, better range weapons that are more effective because they are much longer range. Like, the longest range I think is the hunting rifle, and it does like 30 range or like something, but like almost double what this Warplock pistol or shuriken can do. Shurikens really aren't meant for that, you know, long range engagement type things, so you really can't kite very well. You kind of just have to disengage and throw some shurikens at somebody and pray that you hit them and do some more damage while you're low on HP, and that's really all that they're there for. Oh, and also, I would say shurikens are better than Warplock pistols. If you're going to specifically use ranged weapons for that purpose, because when you want to disengage somebody, you actually need to use these things called offensive points and strategy points. Generally, offense points are used for combat actions, and strategy points are used more for movement, but because disengaging from an enemy is both sort of combat and movement, you do spend both types of points. And because you're spending those points, especially because you're spending these red points, these offense points, and the action of disengaging, you end up usually not having enough points to spend on actually throwing a dart or you know, doing anything in range with the Warplock pistols, because they have a 3 red pill cost, whereas to hit somebody with a shuriken, you only need 2. So it's easier to shoot right off the bat, even on the same turn as you run away. Like, you back off a bit and you can just turn around and throw a shuriken at them, because you'll usually have enough energy or action points to do so. Whereas the Warplock pistols don't have that luxury. On top of that, the same story goes for Warplock pistols and shurikens when it comes to reloading. Warplock pistols cost more strategy points to reload than shurikens. Shurikens are super easy to reload, so that trades off a lot better, because if you're just trying to disengage and throw somebody at range, you'll want to save most of your blue pills or blue points or whatever you want to call it, strategy points. You can spend most of those strategy points on actually moving and getting more distance between you and your enemy, as opposed to using them to load your weapon and shoot and stuff. So that's why I think shurikens are way better than Warplock pistols for disengaging fights and then throwing shit at them. So that is my 2 cents on this. Also, I guess one last thing to really point out is that the armors on your champion or heroes or whatever, they are restricted by these proficiencies just like weapons. So if you don't have a proficiency listed, you can't use that equipment. Now, in the case of armors, if you look at your leader here, he only uses cloth. Okay, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but it's just, there's no other option. You have to use cloth. Oh, okay, there's light. Sorry, my bad. But you can't use heavy armor. if you look at your Knight Runner, you can use cloth and light, but you can't use heavy armor. So yeah, it's like until you get to these warp guards, then you can use heavy armor. So what that is saying already is the only dudes in the Skaven faction that you can really rely on to be tanking for you, at least at your level 0 game, is gonna be your henchmen. It's gonna be your warp guards. In addition, they have a really nice passive ability that lets them pick up word stones and have a resistance to their poison. So every time you pick up a word stone, it actually targets you with some sort of weird spell or whatever, and it hits you, and it usually reduces your HP or reduces your chance to dodge, reduces your chance to hit, or something. It gives you a weird buff that's random. And warp guards have a way of saying, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna ignore that. So they can safely pick up word stones. You can still safely, quote unquote, pick up word stones with other champions or characters that don't have this perk of being, basically immune to the word stones effects. But I'm sorry, I'm a little confused here. So as you can see, I'm already getting pretty tired. I should be going to sleep. I spent most of today actually trying to upload the previous video to YouTube and having that crash several times and trying to figure that out. So yeah, I'm going to be ending this video just shortly from now. But because because these guys are your only like armor choice, heavy armor choice, they're like sort of your early go-to tanks. I would say even late game they're your go-to tanks. So I'm going to build them tanky. That's my own personal preference. And they also have the option to have heavy armor. So that sort of settles it from that perspective. I'm going to check the store to see if they have any heavy armor. And they don't. So I cannot put any heavy armor on my warp guards, which is unfortunate. They do quite a bit of damage mitigation. It's like a 25%, I believe, damage resistance. Like whenever you're about to hit or get hit by somebody and take damage, 25% of that gets negated if you're wearing heavy armor. Obviously the other armors have some other trade-off. Like they have something that they offer that the heavy armor doesn't. The heavy armor also has a penalty to dodge and movement range. I'll go into more of that later in the actual fighting portion of this video. For now, I need to end this video with naming my faction. I mean, obviously it's a Skaven faction, but you actually get to change the name. I'm going to actually probably keep this for now. I'm going to let viewers or subscribers who make suggestions on my channel give me maybe potential ideas for the name of my characters as well as the name of what this warband is going to be called. I like Venomous Murderers. I think it fits the Skavens quite well, and it's, sounds pretty good to me, so I'll just keep that for now. So yeah, tune in next time to see more of this game. I'm going to actually play in the fight next game, and that's gonna be the campaign. I will pick one of these missions and start the next video once we've already loaded into the mission, because the loading screens take forever and I don't want to sit there watching a video with zero anything. Like, I like personally analysis, and I want to analyze and give you an idea of what it is that I'm doing with my warband. Obviously, this is a level 0 warband, and I haven't really done much aside from hiring everybody. But I'm making it so that I'm explaining every single step. I'm explaining everything that I do with a lot of depth, so that people can, learn as they watch and understand what I'm doing as I go along, because that's what I personally enjoy. And hopefully there's going to be enough of you out there who also enjoys this similar style of Let's Play. I really don't enjoy watching... I wouldn't say I don't enjoy watching Let's Plays that are all about rushing into a game, because it could be quite hilarious to watch a Let's Players have their first impressions of a game, or their first initial sort of reactions to what happens in a game, or what happens to a plot, or whatever. But this game in particular, I feel like it would be the wrong approach to do initial reaction type things, because it's mostly just, oh shit, this game's so hard, oh my god, I can't believe I did that, or oh dude, like, and while that's probably also pretty entertaining to watch, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of Let's Players out there who's done that already, and I'm really more interested in providing you with footage of high level analysis, more in-depth strategy and thinking involved in this game. And believe me, I do this a lot in a lot of games that I play. I play a lot of strategy games, I play RTSs, I play tactical games, I play turn-based games. Played a ton of chess growing up, so like I'm naturally geared towards, like, my brain is geared towards this type of thing a lot better than other video games, I guess. But yeah, thank you for watching my channel. I hope that you can give me any feedback you would find be helpful to you, or to me, or whatever, in the comment section. And I will be including a link in the description below to the wiki of this game, the Gamepedia, where I will actually be referring to this page a lot. It has a lot of information. I think it's very thorough. I like thoroughness, and so I'm going to be referring to that a lot. I hope that if you're going to be watching my series, these references won't be lost on you. So please take a look at that wiki if you are interested in the mechanics of this game at all. And if you absolutely hate analysis and absolutely don't like any sort of thing that has to do with sitting and thinking for long periods of time, well, first of all, Mordheim probably isn't the game for you. But you can also just feel free to go ahead and skip all my odd numbered episodes for this Let's Play series for Skavens, because I will always have a odd numbered episode be about the analysis before actually getting into a fight, and then I will get into a fight in the even numbered episodes. So next episode, the episode 2, will be my first campaign match, and I will be showing you sort of sorts of things you need to look out for on the battlefield with your beginning Skaven band, war band of 5 members, and sort of little tactics that you can use to swing the battle in your favor. There's really not a whole ton of things that you can do since it's so early in the game, but I can use that next fight to show you certain things that I believe are basic building blocks towards having a better understanding of what I'll be doing later on in this Let's Play series, where I'll be doing pretty complicated stuff. And believe me, because I've been looking up a lot of builds and I've been preparing them, so I have more to offer. But I'm not going to overwhelm you with, builds and skills and all kinds of mechanics all at once. I feel like that would be information overload, and it would just be less enjoyable overall. I'm going to give you as much analysis as I can that's relevant within each phase, and then show you the combat at that level of analysis, and then build on that as we build up our warband. And that's it for now, guys. Thank you for watching. I super appreciate it. Please share with your friends if you think this is something that your friends might enjoy, especially if they're a player who have shown frustration towards this game, because I'm sure if they're willing to invest some time into learning this game, they're gonna have a lot of enjoyment out of this game, and that's my whole like purpose of making this Let's Play series, is also sort of be kind of that tutorial like thing as I go along and teach people how to play this game better, and it's purely so that, you know, I can also enjoy that as well, because I enjoy it. I enjoy explaining things. I enjoy having analysis, and I really hope that players out there, there are others out there who really enjoy this type of thing instead of jumping right in and just fighting and not talking about stuff. But yeah, so thanks for watching. I'm going to end this video now, and I look forward to showing you stuff in the next episode. Thank you.